All right, everybody, good evening to you. I am forecaster Nick Dunn on this December 22nd, 2022, just at the top of the hour here at 7 o'clock now with a live update for you. Give you a live current look at conditions across the region and let you know what we are expecting over the next several hours. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay and see me okay as well. We'll get things started here in just a couple of moments. I just want to give everybody a few moments to share this around with your friends and family. We've got the radar down there in the lower right-hand corner. We'll bring that full screen in just a couple of minutes for you, but I just wanted to allow everybody to come on in and appreciate everybody hopping on this evening. Obviously, everybody very concerned about what we're going to be tracking here. Wind chills are a big story. Snow, some rain, some really high winds also working into the region this evening. We'll break it all down for you here in just a few minutes. Some of you are seeing snow already across Indiana. That Arctic front is quickly approaching the Ohio-Indiana state line this evening. I anticipate that to continue pushing off towards the east here over the next several hours. So again, good evening to all of you. Let us know where you're watching from tonight. We'll try to answer your questions as best as we can. I'll have meteorologist Mike Joyce in with us in just a little while. And I'll also have other members of our team throughout the night. I know we do have Zach is expected to go out into the roadways and kind of show us what he is seeing out there when we get a little bit closer to that time period. So we'll keep you posted on that. But for now, let's go ahead and take everything full screen here for you this evening. You can see we've got our temperature here in Columbus sitting at 42. A lot of us are even cooler than that out there this evening. I'll bring the radar full for you so you can kind of see temperatures across the region this evening. 43 right now in Zanesville and Parkersburg, 41 in Findlay. But back across Indiana, those temperatures are crashing very, very quickly. We're down to 34 in Fort Wayne, 28 in Muncie, 12 in Indianapolis. So just from Muncie to Indianapolis, a very short distance geographically, and you're down 16 degrees. I do expect temperatures to fall about 20 degrees or so over a 2-hour time period, which for our area, relatively extreme when you kind of take a look at things from a different perspective. So this is radar right now. Again, we anticipated rain on the front end. I guess this is actually not so good news for everybody, because when that cold front does come through and we see that change over to snow start to really take effect, I do anticipate that we are going to have a flash freeze. And if you don't know what a flash freeze is, imagine that you go from liquid to solid in just a matter of an hour or so. So we're going to see temperatures above freezing like we're seeing right now in Dayton at 45. That's going to fall down to the middle to upper teens in just a matter of a couple of hours. So obviously right now, road salt, it's really not going to be worth putting out there. It's just going to wash away. Any kind of pre-treating that was done, this rain's going to wash it away. You're going to see this transition to snow continue to move very quickly across the region. I expect it to hit the Ohio-Indiana state line here by about the 8 o'clock time frame. It's already crossed Muncie. I know the radar shows rain there, but that position only updates every so often. So we'll kind of get you a closer look at that in just a few moments. But then it should approach US 23 by about the 10, 11, 12 o'clock time frame based on current trends. And then we'll see the push further off towards the east, towards I-77 after about 1 or 2 in the morning. So a very quick moving system across the region. Let's get you a little bit of a radar tour out here this evening. So again, right now, we are seeing this rain changing to snow. And once you hit about 35, 34 degrees, that's when we'll start to see that transition to snow. Very cold air in the upper levels is going to allow for temperatures to even be above freezing for a short time and allow for snow to reach the ground and start accumulating very quickly. We're already seeing several travel advisories across Indiana as conditions are going to start deteriorating very quickly. But so now you can see the rain snow line has adjusted. So Fort Wayne, you're over to snow now. But just from Fort Wayne to Rochester, that is about an hour drive roughly, and you have 15-degree temperature changes. So the roads right now in Fort Wayne probably just wet, maybe a little slushy with the heavier rate of snow coming down. That's going to freeze in just a little while. So very dangerous conditions are anticipated through the rest of the night tonight. Dropping a little further to the south here, Dayton, Lima, Richmond. It's rain now, going to change to snow over the next few hours. And once it starts snowing, it's going to come down at a pretty good clip. And I do want to show you as well that we're already seeing temperatures approaching the Indiana-Illinois state line that are down to the good old goose egg, down to 0 already in east central Illinois. So these temperatures will continue to free fall and plummet through the overnight hours tonight. The Mid Ohio Valley, Southeast Ohio, West Virginia, you're dry for right now. Northeast Ohio, a few passing sprinkles coming on through, but overall, as I zoom things out, and I'll turn the temperatures off for you. I'll show you those wind gusts here in just a few minutes as well. The back edge of the snow already coming through St. Louis. Now, don't take that as, oh, well, we're just not going to get much. These snowfall ratios, and we talk about ratios, so everybody likely remembers going back through school, 10 inches of snow for every 1 inch of rain. That's if your temperature's at about 32 degrees. Well, our temperatures are going to be much colder than that overnight tonight, so those snowfall ratios are going to really start to pick up as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Some of you probably saw our snowfall map a little earlier, and I'll try to pull it up here if I can in just a little bit, but 3 to 5 inches of snow for a lot of us appears to be a good bet. There are still some concerns out there about maybe some dry slotting, and basically a little bit of a less moisture availability for a couple of locations. But at the end of the day, folks, it's going to be really tough to measure. Those winds, and I'll show you some of the model data here coming up in just a few minutes. We do anticipate winds to be really, really strong, especially going into the first thing tomorrow morning. So whatever snow is on the ground, it's going to blow around, it's going to drift, and it's going to cause some serious travel difficulties. Last night out in Wyoming, I don't know if you saw the video of a couple of the state troopers out there, 50-mile-per-hour winds and just a couple of inches of snow causing some serious travel problems. And tomorrow's a pretty big travel day. Unfortunately, a lot of us have plans. And unfortunately, I think the first half of the day especially going to be treacherous to, in some locations, maybe even impossible as we track this very dangerous winter storm set to move across the region. So you can see some of the darker blues. These are where we could have some snowfall rates, 1 to maybe an inch and a half per hour. And folks, it's going to really start to add up quickly. Now, again, once the wind kicks in, it's going to be really tough to measure. So we're going 3 to 5 inches for the most part. I don't want you to get, no, it's not a big deal. We never really thought that the snowfall would be the most memorable thing from this particular storm system. It has always been about the wind and the very cold temperature. So those are kind of our bigger concerns, if you will. And we'll just kind of watch and see how things transpire here over the next several hours as we do anticipate snow to continue moving in across the region. Let's look at some of those wind gusts out there this evening, because we're already seeing winds gusting 25 to 35 miles per hour across Indiana, and that in itself is enough to really start to drop visibility. The snow is going to be very light, fluffy, powdery type snow, so it will blow around very quickly, very easily. The initial layer of snow may not so much, but once you get a little bit more on top of that, it will start to blow around a lot easier for us. So winds gusting to 30 right now in Muncie, 32 in South Bend, 39 in eastern Indiana, and I even saw a wind gust of I believe it was 54 a little while ago in Kansas City. So we are seeing some very high winds out there. Winds gusting over 40 miles per hour in Iowa, and those will continue to move in our direction here through the overnight hours. And last thing, look at these. These are wind chills. So we talk about wind chills. This is what it feels like to your skin. Look at these wind chill values. This is why we've always tried to push it with this one, that the snowfall amounts are not going to be the thing that really causes a lot of problems. We're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of snow for most locations. Not a big deal. It's the wind and the cold. So wind chills well below 30, below 0, already into western Illinois, and these will continue to slide east and southeast through the rest of the overnight tonight. By the time you get up tomorrow morning around sunrise, wind chills statewide and region-wide will be 15 to 30 below 0. Really, really impressive stuff, and obviously not something that you want to be kind of dealing with outside if you could all help it. So I'm going to pull up some model data here for you, which again, at this point, we have to kind of keep in mind that this is more of a now casting situation, okay? And what I mean by that is we're just going to take it as it comes, and we will look at it a little bit at a time as we continue to move forward here. So let's see if I can get this pulled up for you. There we go. So this is a look at the forecast model data from the high-resolution rapid refresh model. I'll try to make this a little bit larger for you so you can see it. There we go. So this is a look at pretty much right now, 7 o'clock. It's got the rain-snow line pretty much right down to a pat. Now, this is the high resolution rapid refresh model. This runs every single hour. So if there's any changes in the atmosphere or anything of that nature that appear to maybe have a substantial impact on what we're expecting, this will pick it up pretty quickly. As we continue to move forward in time through the overnight, this 7, and then we'll move it out to 8, and then 9, and then 10, and there's 11 o'clock. It's approaching that US 23 corridor, so maybe an hour earlier in some locations than others. It's all dependent about how quickly this cold air moves in and takes over. But really pay attention to these dark blues right behind that initial changeover from rain to snow. That's going to be the period of time that the snow comes down the hardest. That first hour or so, the snow should be really coming down at a good clip. Hours 2 and 3, it'll be a moderate clip, but more steady, and that's where I think we'll get a good bit of our accumulation, because the snow ratios will be increasing as the colder air continues to take over, and that'll continue to cause some problems. We get you towards midnight and 1 and 2 in the morning. That's where we start to approach the I-77 corridor, and those of you in eastern Ohio. And again, rain on the front edge. You add in temperatures falling below freezing, gusts to 30, 40 miles per hour at times, and even some spots, even in the early morning hours, we could see some gusts over 50 miles per hour, and that will continue into the daytime tomorrow as well. That's going to cause a lot of problems, very poor visibility. Now, this particular run is not all the way out just yet, so that takes us out to 2 a.m., and there's still a decent amount of snow on the backside once we get through that initial changeover from rain to snow. Now, I'm going to show you one thing on this model, and that is visibility. Obviously, this is a concern. How poor are those driving conditions going to be? So I'm going to take you back here a little bit. And remember, I still see a lot of talk out here about blizzard conditions. I don't anticipate a blizzard to be met in our coverage area, at least for most of us. Maybe Northeast Indiana, Northwest Ohio, or far Northeast Ohio has a chance. But for most of us, we're going to be talking about reduced visibility and near whiteout conditions at times, or you could maybe term it blizzard-like conditions. Those are very confusing terms for some folks. And remember, for a blizzard, we have to have 30 mile per hour winds or greater. We have to have visibility at a quarter mile or less for 3 consecutive hours, along with falling or blowing snow. So keep that in mind. If you don't, a lot of times we fall short because of the visibility aspect. A half-mile visibility, quarter-mile visibility, not a big difference when you're talking impacts. So this is a look right here at 10 o'clock tonight. Visibility in Dayton and Cincinnati between a quarter and a third of a mile. So again, that first hour or so, you're going to really see the snow come down in earnest. Then hours 2 and 3, winds are going to really start to pick up. That's going to allow visibility to get reduced very quickly. So that's at 10 o'clock. And we get to 11 o'clock and midnight, visibility across moving into central and north central Ohio, down into southwest Ohio and southeast Indiana, a quarter to a half mile at times. So if you happen to be out driving, the only positive that I will say about this is that this is happening during a relatively minimal drive. There are not going to be as many people out there is what I'm getting at. Between this 11 to 3 a.m. type window, not as many people out and about, but still a high impact situation continues here as we continue to move forward. So that's midnight, 1 and 2 in the morning. Visibility still a quarter to a half mile across parts of central and north central Ohio, and also along the Ohio River. But even the spots where there's 1 to 2 mile visibility, that's still not great. And that still means you're going to have to allow a lot of extra time while driving. I anticipate tomorrow morning's commute going to be very unpleasant for a lot of us if you happen to have the requirement to go out and drive tomorrow morning. So there's a look as we get towards 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. We're still seeing visibility statewide in most locations a mile or less. A couple of spots are a little bit better than that. And again, this is a model simulation. This is not meant to be taken as this is what it's really going to be, but this is where things stand. And I don't anticipate much in the way of any change with this particular setup. Snowfall totals. I will show this, but again, I caution you because this is not all the way through. This is hot off the press, if you will. And I do want to point out that we are starting to see some trends. With this particular model, we have been seeing the snowfall increase across southwest Ohio into central Ohio. southeast Indiana, north central Kentucky. And this is using the Kuchera ratio, which again takes, you look at your standard model, it's normally 10 to 1. So the Kuchera ratio takes into effect the potential of seeing 20 to 1 ratios, 30 to 1 ratios, not out of the question with this. And so you're looking at this. This is one reason that we decided to increase our snowfall totals tonight. Now, obviously, there are some concerns here that I have. You can see the northwestern corner of our region, not very impressive totals whatsoever. You should get some additional snow later into the day on Friday and Saturday from lake enhancement off of Lake Michigan. And again, this model run doesn't quite go all the way out in time. But as you can see here, as it continues to come in, there's a pretty good swath right there along I-71 and also up and down 75 for most of us that could see several inches of snow. Now again, this is a model forecast. This is not an exact verbatim of how things are going to pan out. All it would take is over a couple of hours' time, something changes with the storm, and these snowfall totals that you're seeing on this particular model could get cut in half. Now, I'll take you back to the last couple of runs of this, and been very consistent. Several inches of snow. This is the most recent full one that takes us out through 11 a.m. Friday. And again, it's still snowing in some locations, but a very wide consensus of 3 to 5 inches with a few pockets of higher totals. Now, again, it's going to be very difficult to measure. You've got all of this wind coming through. And we're going to talk about wind chills, the projected wind chills, in just a minute. This model is a little too cold, I think, on the wind chills, but it gets the point across that we were talking about extreme cold we've not seen in quite some time moving into the region. So keep all those different things in mind as we continue to move along. Let's go talk about wind chills real quick. Another big story for us. And in fact, we'll just leave it right here. This is 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. And again, I think this is a little aggressive. And I'm not showing this to show you the worst case scenario. I'm showing you this to say, hey, make sure that you are prepared for very, very cold temperatures. Wind chill warnings are in effect for most of the region. And I would not be surprised to see those fill in here over the next few hours as things kind of trend and progress. But this particular model run has minus 25 to minus 40 on the wind chills. I think it's about 10 degrees too cold on both the low and the high end of that. So we're talking minus 15 to minus 30 widespread for several hours. I know there's a lot of folks that are watching that I know you may know me personally, and I enjoy wearing shorts and a t-shirt or shorts and a polo. Not going to work this go around. These temperatures, that's where I draw the line and say, hey, it's too cold. I know we have some other fans out there that like to do the same thing, but folks, make sure your pets are indoors. Make sure if you have exposed pipes in your house that are exposed to cold and that are exposed to the elements, that they are wrapped. You may want to set the furnace up a couple of degrees extra because these winds are gonna howl for quite some time, and you're gonna want to find ways to stay warm. The other concern that we have, strong to even damaging wind gusts at times. I'll back this up just a little bit for you so you can see the progression of these gusts. So right now outside, it's not too bad. A little bit of a light breeze. You would actually probably consider it calm compared to where we're going to be over the next 12 to 24 hours. We continue to progress in time through the overnight. Winds gusting 30, 40, even 45 miles per hour just after midnight. This is a look actually towards 4 o'clock in the morning, but these winds are increasing. As we go through the morning, 35 to 45 mile per hour gusts. I think this model is a little underdone on the wind and a little overdone on the cold. So again, sometimes when we look at models, we have to kind of blend and compromise our thoughts just a little bit. But as we go through the rest of Friday morning, look up here along Lake Erie. 45, 50, even 55 mile per hour gusts easily. And because there's no real friction over Lake Erie, we could see some gusts getting up to 60, maybe even 65 miles per hour. I know that seems a little bit extreme, but I want you to be prepared for that possibility. Even at 11 a.m. on Friday, these gusts across the rest of the region of 35 to 45 miles per hour, you're still going to be dealing with blowing snow. And then we also still have the risk of power outages. Make sure that you have batteries in your flashlights, your battery banks are charged. If you haven't already done so, your time is running out, so make sure those things are done. Not saying this to alarm you or scare you or induce panic, but we have rain. And then you're going to be changing that to snow with a rapid freeze. So there'll be a thin coating of ice on just about every surface, including trees and power lines. Then you want to throw some really strong wind gusts on top of that. If you're in an area that normally has power disruptions with gusts of 45 to 50 miles per hour, definitely be prepared. I will say that if you're in an area that doesn't usually have too many problems, still be prepared, but it's better to be prepared and have nothing happen than to not be prepared and have an extended outage. That's the way I see it. So just make sure all those different things are ready to go, and you're going to get through the storm just fine. So let's take you back to radar now. We'll show you what's going on. Again, very cold wind chills across the region. Going to continue to work its way through. We'll take you back to the air temperatures here. Just really impressive that we have 40s in our southeastern counties along the river and even into central Ohio and across the Miami Valley. And you go just a couple hours west and you're in the teens. So it's very, very cold air working into the region. I've tried to cover just about everything, but another way to prepare for power outages, and I have to commend my girlfriend for this, fill up a cup with water, a plastic cup, put it in the freezer, let it freeze, and put a coin on top of it. If you lose power, and by the time the power comes back on, if that coin is all the way down at the bottom of the cup, your power was out for too long, and that means everything melted. And that means that your food's not going to be good anymore and not consumable. So you'll have to get rid of that. So, and I'm sure everybody has a couple of other things to kind of help them get through different potentials for power outages and things of that nature. So that's about all I have for right now. I just wanted to update you on the current situation. Again, meteorologist Mike Joyce and several other of our team members will be with us here through the rest of the evening hours as we continue to progress on through. Again, be prepared. Strong winds, a brief period of very heavy snow, blowing and drifting snow with reduced visibilities. Some of those drifts in some spots, if it's in a wide open area, could be several inches high by the time this is all said and done. And we'll continue to keep you posted for the overnight. So for our entire team, I'm forecaster Nick Dunn reporting. Have a great night, everybody, and please stay safe out there. Stay home if you can, and stay warm. We'll see you back here a little bit later on this evening with further updates.